Get ready.
The major covenants, and covenants mean agreements in the Bible. The word covenant means agreement. There are a great number of different types of covenants described in the Bible in the Old Testament. There are some covenants and agreements that really stand out from the rest as decided by the rule books in the Old Testament. These books are called the canon. Some of the agreements between God and the other groups of people or individuals are found within the storyline of a story. A story is also called a narrative, and a storyline is also called a plot. The whole Bible is known as the biblical narrative. A covenant brings two or more people together. These people are known as parties. The covenant agreement makes adjustments to how the parties get along together. This is called their relationship together. This makes a new and special type of relationship together. God started these special types of relationships through the different covenants in the Bible. The covenant with creation, found in Genesis. The creation story is found in the first few chapters of Genesis. There is no exact mention of the covenant in Genesis 1 and 2, though that does not mean there was no covenant. God doesn't need to start a special lawful agreement with creation to be its creator. God simply is the creator because he created. Genesis 1 speaks of creation as God bringing things into life and the dividing of those things from each other. The Hebrew word shalom means peace. When we read Genesis 1 and 2, this is the picture we see in our minds, peace. Earth was full of God's shalom, the kind of peace where everything works as to God's purpose. The world was made as a place for humans to have babies so we could live happily with our Maker God. Living lovingly with God and loving one another forever. The fall in Genesis 2. God creates man and woman named Adam and Eve. They lived together in the Garden of Eden. God, the Creator, gave them rules and set boundaries for their freedom. God told Adam and Eve not to eat from a special tree in the Garden of Eden. This is not a covenant, it is just a command. One theological reason is the faithfulness of God towards creation. Adam and Eve said no to God's rules. Their disobedience is called the fall. Adam and Eve were meant to set a good example for all the other humans to come. Their actions affect us too. When we are disobedient, it is like we are saying to God that we are his enemies. Disobedience causes us physical and spiritual death. The cure for Adam and Eve's sin will need an incarnation. Incarnation in our Christian faith means we believe Jesus Christ was both God and a human being. God himself became a human being in the image of God to rename human nature. Christ is the new Adam. He is the one who fixes the damage that our sin caused. It is Jesus' entire human life that is redemptive, which means saving, not just his death and resurrection. The Adamic covenant can be thought of in two parts. The first part is the Edenic covenant, which means innocence, and the Adamic covenant, which means grace. The Edenic covenant is found in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Mankind, known as males and females, were created in God's image. Mankind are to rule over the animal kingdom. It was by way of divine, which means godly instruction, for mankind to reproduce, which means to make more of and live in all the earth. Mankind are to be vegetarian. which means they are not to eat any animal products including meat. The eating of meat began later on in the Noahic covenant in Genesis 9. In the Garden of Eden, eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil was not allowed. The punishment, if you did so, was death. The Adamic covenant is found in Genesis 3. Because of Adam's sin, the following curses came upon humans. Hate between Satan and Eve and her descendants. Descendants means children. Painful childbirth for women. Arguments between husband and wife, known as marital strife. The soil ruined, which means it was cursed. The beginning of prickles and weeds growing, called thorns and thistles. Life was to be a difficult struggle. The beginning of death. Death will be an unavoidable end of all living things. Although these curses are very bad and unavoidable, a wonderful promise of grace was also included in the Adamic covenant. The seed of the woman. Here God promises that the one born of a woman would be wounded in the process of destroying Satan. The seed of the woman would crush the snake's head. This seed is Jesus Christ, as seen in Galatians and 1 John. Even in the midst of the curse, God's gracious provision of salvation shines through. The Noahic covenant, in Genesis 6 to 9, it is also known as the Noahic covenant or agreement. It is an unconditional covenant because it does not rely upon anything Noah or his children had to do to carry out the covenant. It was made to Noah and all of his children, as well as to every living creature and the earth in general. The Genesis flood story, a story is also called a narrative. In the book of Genesis chapter 6 to 9, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, tells the story of God's plan to return the earth to its original shape, as it was before the time of creation, back to a watery mess by flooding the earth. God was going to remake the world and everything in it. God was going to use the small number of living things that Noah had taken onto the ark with him to make many more of the same. God made a plan. He set the rainbow in the clouds in Genesis 9 to remind Noah and his descendants of God.